Hi there, it's Ashley. I just wanted to give you a couple of tips on about interviewing, especially a virtual interview. So there's a couple of different types. It could be an actual virtual interview where you're actually going to be hopping on a call with someone, but it's going to be like a video chat. So maybe it'll be a Skype call or a Zoom call or maybe even FaceTime if you both have Apple products, whatever the situation may be. Or it could also be a recorded interview. I just wanted to cover a few key tips, especially for like the recorded interviews. One of the things that they're going to be looking for is can you follow instructions? It's very important because if you can't follow their instructions, whether it's written instructions or video instructions, and you're wanting to be able to work from home and they're going to basically constantly be sending you instructions, and if you can't follow those instructions basically on the interview, then you're not going to be a good fit. So make sure that you are following the instructions exactly. They basically tell you everything that you need to do. Just do it. Okay? Another thing that's very important, make sure that you have a good working mic and camera. Be sure to test those before you do the interview. Most interview situations you will have, especially if it's a recorded interview, they will have something where you can kind of test it beforehand, but don't count on that necessarily. But in many situations it is there. So do utilize that because you don't want to spend all this time recording something and sending it over to them and then they're not even able to view it or listen to it or whatever the case may be. So make sure you have a good solid working mic and that your camera looks good. Second thing, make sure that you are in a quiet place and you're free of distractions. You don't want having a kid throwing a football through your camera screen or something like that, or screaming in the background or anything like that. So make sure that you're in a nice quiet place, free of distractions, and so that way it's not going to distract them while they're trying to focus on your video and watching what your interview was. Number three, very, very important thing is your appearance because you are still interviewing. Okay. So I don't understand why this is kind of hard for some people, but it's still an interview. Especially if you're doing a recording and it's your camera's on. They can see you. Okay, so don't sit there picking your nose or wearing something that you wouldn't wear to a normal interview. This is still an interview. Okay. So I would definitely go ahead and make sure that you're wearing something appropriate for that interview. Um, the other thing, make eye contact. Eye contact with the camera. Yes, I understand that you're not actually talking to a person and it can be a little awkward at first. Practice a couple of times first. Record yourself and then rewatch yourself so that way you're going to get a better understanding of whether or not you're doing a pretty good job or if there's certain things that maybe you need to tweak a little bit to make it just that much better. Also take into consideration what your background looked like, okay? Because they're going to take that into consideration as well. Especially if you have to whatever the position that you're applying for, if you're going to have your camera on, they're going to want to know what your background is going to look like. So, for instance, if I was applying for a job, then I was going to be doing some sort of, let's say business consulting. I was going to be working with high-end business executives. This is not going to be an appropriate background. It doesn't make sense. It looks like I'm going to teach 5-year-olds, which I just got done teaching some 5-year-olds. So that's why my background looks like this. So just make sure that you are kind of thinking about that. So also make sure it's not cluttered. You don't want to have a bunch of trash or junky, you don't want it to look bad. So even if your background is plain, that's probably better than you having a trashy background by all means. Um, and then also, like I said before, practice, practice, practice. You don't have to practice a whole lot. Maybe practice in the mirror a couple of times. And like I said, once you feel comfortable with what you're gonna say or that sort of thing, then record yourself a time or two just to get that practice in. If you are doing a video interview and you get the opportunity to record it, like I said, usually they allow you to test your equipment, make sure it's working properly, and many times they also allow you to practice. Take advantage of being able to practice, okay? And then watch yourself. Okay, it's going to help you, I promise. And if you have any other questions or anything and you want maybe a little bit more tips, or maybe you want to ask me how your background looks or that sort of thing, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Okay, thanks. If you need anything else, let me know.